Probably when I got shot in 1984, I got shot with a 12-gauge shotgun in a domestic violence scene. Yeah, I made it through it, but it was kind of painful. Well, I was living with my in-laws and my mother-in-law's son, and I got to fighting and an altercation, and when we broke up, my mother-in-law was in the bedroom and she shot me. I ended up divorcing her daughter, and the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, and the son, they all died like within 2 years of each other.
I'd almost want to say getting divorced and having that pain of losing that person that you loved, and just that battle and that separation that you thought you had, it just can hurt the heart. So that's why I had gotten back on my bicycle and did a lot of miles. You can think, you can just sit there and spin away and think a lot of thoughts and try to put good thoughts in your mind and continue to grow and evolve from that, and you'll change and you'll mature and you'll see life differently, and I guess the change of it. But that can be very low and troubling and hurtful, and so you got to fill it back up with the love. Get rid of the pain. It's distasteful or whatever. It doesn't, it pains you a little bit, but it's not like you're going through it. You've already gone through it, so you don't think you think of it differently because you've overcome it. You've adapted and changed, and you have your wonderful children to look upon and say, what a glorious thing that came from that union, to have your children and have that relationship with them. That's so important.
Probably being a single parent and moving back home with my mom, and that was a tough time of life. It was a dark year or so, but it was also the best year or so it was a kind of wild ride. Yeah, I mean, it was just such an unknown chapter of life. It was tough to be able to work and take care of a newborn, and he had what was called 24-hour colic, which meant when he was awake, he cried, not just normal colic. And now we know, now things have changed, and they do baby chiropractor visits and things like that. But back then, they didn't do that. So it was just really tough, and just dealing with divorce and custody issues, and having to move back home with my mom and losing my townhouse, and it was just it was, you kind of kept thinking you were at bottom, but nope, there's another level down there. And but you just kept on climbing and successfully came out of it, and all was good after that, thank the Lord.
Probably I had just moved away. My mom had cancer in North Carolina, but my dad had to move to Kansas. They're still together, but I decided to move with my dad for my senior year of high school. And my sister's my best friend. I got in a huge fight with her and kind of just isolated myself from my family. Moved to Kansas alone. My mom's cancer got really bad. I was kind of stuck in the middle of the country without her. And I was having to go through my senior year and transitioning from schools and stuff. My dad was always gone. I was living in a house with no furniture just because that's what we were doing. Trying to figure out where I was going next and for college, and it really kind of got the best of me. But that was definitely the lowest moment in my life.
The start of quarantine, I just had a bunch of really unfortunate events piled into one on top of that.
I had a traumatic brain injury. That was a pretty bad time. I had to relearn how to read, and my memory was pretty much gone. So it was starting over from scratch.
Mine is obviously not as life-shattering as that, but we had a lot of family loss, and we lost multiple pets right at the same time period. It was just a lot, and you're going through this time where you can't really see a bunch of people that you want to be around because everybody's in quarantine, so it was just pretty lonely, I guess is how I'd describe it.
When I was pretty young, I moved from from Texas to North Carolina. I moved a few times, but that was definitely the hardest move, was from Texas to North Carolina, because I was a kid and I didn't want to move, and kind of accepting that something has changed and there's really nothing you can do about it because you're a child I remember that really bothered me as a kid for some reason, but I can still remember like that feeling. And I would say that lasted for like the first year that I moved till I kind of adjusted. But that was probably the lowest point in my life, to be honest. And my parents were both working, so it was a lot of like 4 kids running a household, and we had no idea what we were doing. So it was like we definitely needed some boundaries, some control.
My lowest point would have to be when I did not know God truly. I can't remember to that point, but it has to be the lowest because I was the least conscious of myself. You know, at that time I was just a roaming being, roaming, you know. I would call that a low state. Why is that my lowest? It's because I had no knowledge of my own self, you know.
Probably right after my dad passed away. It was just rough not having anybody there, but I got over it. I figured it wasn't what he wanted me to do, to be sad about it and stuff like that. So I went and I progressed myself to hopefully, you know, that was what he wouldn't want me to do. He wouldn't want me to sit around and be sad.
My best friend getting put in the hospital for attempting suicide, I think, was really one of the lowest points in my life. She's doing better now, but at the time she was living in California because she moved out there with her mom. And so I had gotten a phone call from her mom one night saying that she had tried to kill herself and that she was in the hospital. And it was really hard because she was 3,000 miles away from me, so there was nothing I could do about it. I don't know, helpless. Like, it didn't have anything. I mean, it had stuff to do with me, but it wasn't me that did it, so I couldn't, like, fully understand how she was feeling. So I felt helpless in a sense, like I couldn't help her. And there's really nothing I could do.
I guess when my grandmother passed away, like maybe 2006, you know, I had lost my parents at a young age, so she was more so like my mom and my dad over time. I mean, I wasn't a baby when my parents passed away, but I lost my mother at 21 and my father at 17. Later on in life, you know, I lost my grandmother, but because I was able to develop more into an adult with her around, I guess I took it a little differently, so it kind of like put me through somewhat of a stressful time. It's one that made me realize that, you know, life is real. You know, no one does live forever, even though she was old. You know, when someone lives a long time, sometimes you think that they're going to be here for a long time or like they're never going to die. So that was like my lowest point because I lost her. She was more so like my parent that I lost.
I died in the hospital and I came back to life. Right before that, before I actually got cut out of my tent, because my mom was on drugs when she had me, I beat my seizures, but they came back because my body was under too much stress and not being able to eat. And at that time, I hadn't been eating in probably like 2 weeks at least. I looked like I was basically from the Holocaust. My face was really sucked in and everything like that, and my ribs, you know, were showing in like really bad. One of the other homeless people used their government phone to actually call 911, and they came and cut me out of my tent and rushed me to 2 hospitals before rushing me to the 3rd, which was Orlando Hospital, and I died and came back to life because my seizures threw my heart out of rhythm. And so that was probably the lowest point because I felt less than human at that point, and that's where, you know, I started, a few years ago, I started speaking, and I told myself ever since, I'm just gonna follow what I love to do and what my calling is, which is transformational speaking. And now we're on the verge of, you know, reaching thousands of people every day through our live videos that we do on TikTok and through our posts and everything, and so now we're here. So
yeah, and as far as my lowest goes, we'll leave it at that. I think my lowest has been just those moments where I haven't had myself. I'll leave it at that. Like, haven't had enough courage to stand up for myself, to be who I want to be, to say what I want to say. So it's not a specific time in my life, but it's specific moments in my life that I've like not been there for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So. That's that, you know, having a foundation, which is the relationship with yourself. If you don't have a foundation, you have nothing. Yeah. That's what we believe in.
Losing my son's father and my ex, that was like the lowest point of my life because it took a lot out of me, and it felt like I went through a little stage of depression, and, you know, losing them, they were like a big part of my life, and it was a part of me that felt like I couldn't go on. But I had to realize it was more to life. I turned that positive into a negative, and it made me a better person than what I am today. So that was the lowest point, but now I'm at the best part of my life now. I lost my son's father. He committed suicide, and I lost my ex from cancer. And we were together for like 25 years. This was in 2020. Yeah, he died from pancreatic cancer, and it took him out really quick. Not pancreatic, I'm sorry, lymphoma cancer. Yeah, his mom passed away a year prior to that from him passing from pancreatic cancer. So that made me it took a while, but it made me a better person than what I am today. So I took a negative and turned it into a positive. And that's it.